Ms. Russell cheated on you with her male best friend, has been denying the paternity of your 10-month-old daughter, Armani. You say he even took back your engagement ring, pawned it, and called off your wedding. And that he is indeed the father of your daughter.
He pawned her engagement ring, denied her baby, and destroyed her trust. But when the truth finally surfaced, it didn't just shock him. It shattered everything they both believed about love, loyalty, and family. This story begins where trust ends. In a courtroom where love has been replaced by suspicion, a young woman named Miss Russell walks in, not to fight for money or revenge, but for the truth. The truth about her daughter, her relationship, and the man who once promised her forever. Her voice trembles but doesn't break as she tells the judge how her fiancé, Mr. Shepherd, not only denied being the father of their 10-month-old daughter Armani, but also went so far as to pawn her engagement ring, the very symbol of the future they planned together. For 4 years, they had been together. 3 of those years were spent engaged, years filled with promises, plans, and dreams. Yet here they were, standing on opposite sides of a courtroom, arguing over faithfulness, betrayal, and the paternity of a child. Miss Russell insists she's never cheated. She says she's been faithful, loyal, and patient, even when his jealousy grew unbearable. But for Mr. Shepherd, love has become a battlefield of doubt. His mind replays every suspicious moment, every unanswered call, every unexplained delay. The day Miss Russell walked to the store and came back after an hour and a half was enough to ignite his anger. To him, it wasn't just a trip for groceries, it was a red flag waving in the heat of Texas. He accused her, interrogated her, and when she defended herself, he took it as guilt. She packed her things, left with their son, and moved in with her cousin. That's when the cycle of mistrust truly began. While she says she only left to find peace, he claims she went to cheat. He says she disappeared for days, and when she returned, she was pregnant. For him, the timing didn't make sense. It was too soon. He's convinced that the baby she carries cannot be his. He tells the court he has proof, dates, arguments, and even testimony from her own mother, who he says told him that her daughter was unfaithful. According to him, her mother said the baby looked nothing like him, and that she had taken Miss Russell to other men's homes while he was at work. Miss Russell shakes her head in disbelief. She calls it a lie. Her voice cracks when she says her mother doesn't even have a car, and that these accusations are just another way for people to hurt her. But the courtroom isn't interested in emotions. It's interested in evidence. The judge calls for witnesses. Both of their mothers enter, each carrying her own truth and her own pain. First, Miss Russell's mother takes the stand. Her words are sharp, unapologetic, and cut like glass. She says she has seen her daughter cheat. She says she doesn't believe that Armani belongs to Mr. Shepherd. When asked why, she simply says, "I've witnessed it." Her daughter stares at her in disbelief. You can feel the betrayal in her silence, a daughter condemned by her own mother. Then the judge asks her a simple question. "Do you even like Mr. Shepherd?" "No," she admits. "I think my daughter can do better." The courtroom shifts uncomfortably. Even the judge questions whether her accusations are based on truth or resentment. But before anyone can settle into one side, the next witness, Mr. Shepherd's mother, steps forward. Her tone is calm but firm. She doesn't protect her son blindly. Instead, she looks directly at him and says, "Those two are crazy." She defends Miss Russell, calling her a good woman and insisting that her son is controlling. She tells the court that he monitors everything, even when Miss Russell goes to the restroom. Her words pierce through the courtroom tension. Suddenly, it's not just about a baby. It's about control, about trust, about how love can twist into something toxic when fear takes over. Mr. Shepherd stands there stunned. His own mother has taken the other side. His defenses start to crumble under the weight of her honesty, but still, he says, he only wants one thing, the truth. He doesn't want to live a lie. He doesn't want to raise a child that isn't his. And so, he insists on a lie detector test and a DNA test. When asked why he pawned her engagement ring, his explanation is cold and calculated. If I marry her, he says, and that baby isn't mine, then by law, she becomes my daughter. I had to know before I made that mistake. He claims he needed answers before he could give his heart back. She claims he already broke it when he sold the symbol of their love. The pain is raw on both sides. One pleading for faith, the other demanding proof. Miss Russell describes how he refused to care for their daughter, even when he doted on their son. She recalls how he took his son to the zoo and left her and the baby behind, not because he couldn't afford the tickets, but because he didn't believe the baby was his. Her words sting, but his don't come from anger. They come from fear. He says he's been hurt before. He once believed another woman's child was his, only to discover the truth later. He says he doesn't want to go through that pain again, but Miss Russell reminds him that when she gave birth to their son, he also denied him, until he saw the boy and claimed him proudly. You did it before, she says. You'll do it again. The judge listens patiently. She knows this story is not unique, but it's still deeply human. Beneath all the shouting and tears lies the same fragile need, to be loved and believed. Then comes the moment of truth. The courtroom falls silent as the lie detector results are read. The question was simple. Did you ever have sexual intercourse with your male best friend? Miss Russell answers, no. The result, she was telling the truth. A small victory, her first breath of relief. But it doesn't last. The next question, have you ever had sexual intercourse with any other man during your relationship with Mr. Shepherd? She answers, no. The result, that was a lie. The room freezes. Mr. Shepherd stares at her with a mix of pain and vindication. She breaks down, insisting the test is wrong. She swears she never cheated. The judge reminds her that the test is not perfect, that only DNA can tell the full story. And so the next envelope is opened, the one that holds the fate of their family. The results are read aloud. In the case of Russell versus Shepherd, when it comes to 10-month-old Armani, Mr. Shepherd, you are the father. The silence breaks. His eyes widen. The weight of doubt falls off his shoulders. The room exhales. Miss Russell bursts into tears. Tears not just of relief, but of exhaustion. The truth she fought for all along has finally been proven. For Mr. Shepherd, the reality sets in slowly. He says he feels good knowing Armani is his daughter. But he also admits that forgiveness won't come instantly. He says he needs time to think, to gather his thoughts, before deciding what comes next. The judge doesn't let him escape easily. She reminds him that he now has 2 children, 2 souls who see him as their father. Whether or not he and Miss Russell rebuild their relationship, his duty to those children remains. He nods, perhaps realizing that fatherhood isn't about proof. It's about presence. Miss Russell, still shaken but hopeful, listens as he says he's willing to move forward, to forgive, to try again. He admits he hasn't been perfect either. For a brief moment, the bitterness softens, and in that silence, there's a fragile possibility of peace. The second story opens in the same courtroom. But this time, it's not just about betrayal. It's about confusion, heartbreak, and the devastating cost of choices made in the heat of the moment. A young woman named Miss Harris stands before the judge, trembling under the weight of two men's stares. On one side sits Mr. Murray, her current boyfriend. On the other, Mr. Donaldson, her ex. Both men believe they could be the father of her 18-month-old daughter, Anaya. Both want answers, and neither is prepared for what the truth will bring. Miss Harris admits this is the most painful moment of her life. She says she never intended to hurt anyone, but emotions got tangled and timing betrayed her. She met Mr. Donaldson first. They dated, fell in love, and before she knew it, she was pregnant. But then, just as her belly began to grow, he told her he had feelings for someone else. He told her he didn't want to be with her anymore. She was left alone, pregnant, scared, and heartbroken. Yet Mr. Donaldson tells a very different story. He says he didn't even believe she was pregnant at first. He thought she made it up to hold on to him, to keep him from moving on. He claims she only came to him after he started seeing another woman. For him, it was all too sudden, too convenient. When the judge asks him when he finally accepted the pregnancy, he admits it wasn't until he saw her swollen belly. By then, he says, it was too late to deny it. He even bought her a pregnancy test, but by that time, she was already visibly expecting. He says he tried to do the right thing, went to the hospital, showed up for the baby shower, but their relationship had already fallen apart. Miss Harris listens quietly, her eyes fixed on the floor. When she finally speaks, her voice is small but steady. He came to the hospital, she says, but he didn't stay. She explains how after her daughter was born, she tried to include Mr. Donaldson and his family. For a while they were supportive, even loving. His mother says she accepted the baby as her grandchild. She says she believed it was her son's daughter because Miss Harris said so. But then, everything changed. Mr. Donaldson's mother testifies that one day, her own mother went to pick up the baby and saw Fred, a man from Miss Harris's past. That moment planted the first seed of doubt, and in this courtroom, doubt spreads faster than truth. The judge turns to the other man, Mr. Murray, and asks the question everyone's waiting for. Why do you believe this child could be yours? He takes a breath before answering. His voice is calm, but his words carry weight. Because one day, he says, I got a message from Mr. Donaldson. He told me the baby might be mine. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. Miss Harris's eyes dart toward her ex. Mr. Donaldson frowns, shaking his head, unsure if he ever sent that message. He mutters, I don't recall. But for Mr. Murray, that message changed everything. He says that after seeing that message, he reached out to Miss Harris, confused and desperate for the truth. But as he spent time with her and her family, something unexpected happened. Her relatives began saying that little Anaya looked just like him. At first, he brushed it off, but the more he looked, the more he began to see it too. The shape of her eyes, the curve of her smile, pieces of himself reflected back. That's when the judge asks the question that exposes everything. Did you have a sexual relationship with Miss Harris while she was still involved with Mr. Donaldson? Mr. Murray nods. Yes. Miss Harris's secret is no longer hidden. She admits that she slept with both men around the same time, though she insists the timing makes the father clear. She says that when she was with Mr. Murray, he used protection, and that conception happened later, when she was only with Mr. Donaldson. But the story gets more complicated. Mr. Murray disagrees. He says protection wasn't used, and then, almost hesitantly, he adds something no one expected. We had a situation in December. The judge raises an eyebrow. What kind of situation? He hesitates. A threesome. The courtroom falls silent. Even the judge pauses, shaking her head slightly. It's not judgment, it's disbelief. The audience gasps softly as she says, I didn't expect you to say that. What started as a question of paternity has become a tangled web of impulse and consequence. Mr. Murray explains that the encounter happened unprotected. Miss Harris insists it was before conception. But the timelines blur, emotions rise. The courtroom becomes a storm of overlapping voices and painful truths. Then, as the chaos settles, the judge calls on Mr. Murray's mother, Miss Weaver. She takes the stand, poised and honest. She says she didn't know about the pregnancy until months later. When she finally found out, she confronted both her son and Miss Harris directly. Her son told her the baby wasn't his, and Miss Harris confirmed the same thing. But time has a way of changing stories. Months later, as baby Anaya grew, even Miss Weaver started to wonder. She says, "Her family kept telling us the baby looks exactly like my son." She admits that the resemblance was uncanny, enough to plant that same old seed of doubt, this time in her own heart. Miss Harris maintains her position. Conception happened in February. She says her doctor confirmed it. Mr. Donaldson was the man she was intimate with at the time, at the beginning, middle, and end of that month. She insists that whatever happened with Mr. Murray in December was too early to matter. But science doesn't care about emotion, and memory doesn't always align with fact. Both families present photos to the court of Mr. Murray, of Mr. Donaldson, and of baby Anaya. The judge studies them carefully. One moment, the child seems to mirror Mr. Donaldson's eyes. The next, her expression looks just like Mr. Murray's. Even the mothers can't agree. "Honestly," says Miss Weaver, "it's hard to tell. Still, one thing is certain. Both men have shown care. Both have held this child, played with her, and dreamed of being her father." Mr. Murray's voice softens when he says, "She looks to me like I'm her dad. I've been there since she was 3 months old. I take care of both of them." He says he never questioned it at first. He just wanted to be there, to protect, to love. He says that while others doubted, he showed up. Miss Harris nods. She confirms that he's been there, that he has been the father figure in her daughter's life. But still, the shadow of uncertainty lingers. The judge turns to Mr. Donaldson. "Do you see your daughter often?" she asks. His answer is hesitant. "Not as much as I'd like to. She lives far away." He explains that he's tried, phone calls, visits, but distance and tension have made it hard. He says he moved out of state to escape the drama, but he still wants to know the truth. When asked if he hopes to be the father, he hesitates again. "I guess you can say that," he murmurs, "but I've missed so much. I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel anymore." The judge's eyes soften. "That's fair," she says quietly. "It's fair to admit you don't know." There's a rare honesty in that moment, the kind that strips away pride and pretense. Both men, once rivals, sit with the same expression of quiet pain. Both have loved a child who may not be theirs. Both have imagined futures that may dissolve in a single sentence. Then, finally, it's time. The courtroom stills as the envelopes are brought forward. 2 results, 2 truths, 2 hearts about to break. The judge opens the first. In the case of Murray versus Donaldson, when it comes to 18-month-old Anaya Harris, the silence stretches. Miss Harris closes her eyes. Mr. Donaldson grips the edge of his seat. "Mr. Gerald Donaldson, you are not the father." Gasps echo through the courtroom. Miss Harris bows her head. Mr. Donaldson stares blankly at the floor. No anger, no tears. Just the emptiness that comes when hope dies quietly. Then comes the second envelope. The judge reads slowly, her voice calm but heavy. In the case of Murray versus Donaldson, when it comes to 18-month-old Anaya Harris, she pauses. Miss Harris holds her breath. Mr. Murray looks at her, eyes wide, heart pounding. "Mr. Murray, you are not the father." The room breaks. Miss Harris collapses in tears. Mr. Murray buries his face in his hands. The man who stayed, who loved, who raised the baby, learns in one sentence that biology has erased his claim. Yet what comes next is even more powerful than the revelation. He doesn't walk away. He doesn't lash out. He simply whispers, "That's still my baby." The judge looks at him, moved. She nods softly, saying, "That's the heart of a real father." Miss Harris can barely breathe. She says through tears that she never meant for any of this to happen. She apologizes to both men, her voice breaking as she says she feels like she's failed everyone, especially her daughter. The judge comforts her. She reminds her that mistakes don't define motherhood. Truth does. And now, it's time to take that truth and do better. As the court session ends, the weight of reality settles in. There are no winners, only lessons. The young mother leaves with her child in her arms. The men walk away changed, not just by DNA results, but by the painful understanding that love, trust, and choices all have consequences. And somewhere in the middle of all that pain lies a small girl. Innocent, unaware, but surrounded by people who, despite everything, once fought to call her their own. 2 stories, 2 courtrooms, 2 battles for truth. Yet beneath both cases lies the same human ache, the desperate longing to be believed, to be loved, and to find peace in a world where trust is fragile and forgiveness costs everything. Miss Russell and Miss Harris may never meet, but their stories echo the same truth about the human heart. It breaks, it doubts, but it still hopes. After the verdicts, the air in both courtrooms feels heavier, not from the words spoken, but from everything left unsaid. The pain of being accused, the shame of being doubted, the emptiness that comes when the person you love looks at you not as a partner, but as a suspect. For Miss Russell, the DNA test gave her victory, but not relief. Yes, the court confirmed what she already knew. Mr. Shepherd was indeed the father of her baby girl. But behind that truth lay wounds that science couldn't heal. He had pawned her ring. He had called her a liar. He had walked out when she needed him most. The same man who once knelt with a promise of forever had become the one to strip her of her dignity in front of the world. And even though he now said he wanted to forgive and move forward, she could still feel the weight of every cruel word. Forgiveness might be possible, but forgetting was not. Still, she looked at him with tired eyes and said, "I just want my family back." Mr. Shepherd nodded, humbled by his own reflection in her pain. For years, his love had been buried under jealousy, a need to control what he feared losing. But standing in that courtroom, hearing his mother call him out for his behavior, watching Miss Russell defend her faithfulness while fighting tears, it changed him. He realized that the very thing he accused her of, betrayal, was something he'd done himself. He betrayed her trust long before she ever had the chance to betray his. And when the judge reminded him that his children would look to him, not as a man who demanded proof, but as a man who provided love, something inside him softened, because in the end, it wasn't about being right. It was about being there. He stood, took a slow breath, and said something no one expected. "I ain't perfect," he admitted, "but I want to try. For them." The judge smiled. For once, this courtroom, a place where hearts often break, felt like it might also be where healing begins. In the second case, however, healing wouldn't come so easily. Miss Harris, still trembling from the results, held her daughter close. Her tears soaked the child's tiny curls. 2 men, 2 possible fathers, both ruled out in one afternoon. The word "not" had never felt so final. Not the father. For the men, it was freedom wrapped in heartbreak. For her, it was a sentence, a reminder that every choice carries a shadow. Mr. Murray, the man who stayed, the man who loved her through doubt and whispers, sat beside her. His shoulders slumped, but he didn't move away. When the judge looked at him and asked, "Can you still be part of her life?" he simply nodded. "She's my baby," he said again, voice trembling but steady. It was more than a statement. It was a vow, He knew now that biology wasn't what made a father. Love did. Commitment did. The quiet moments at 3 a.m. when a child cries, and you're the one who gets up. That's what makes a father. The judge's eyes softened. You have something special in you, she told him. Don't lose that because of pain. Not many men have that kind of heart. Mr. Donaldson sat silent, staring at the floor. The man who once doubted the pregnancy now wished he had believed sooner. There was guilt in his stillness. Guilt for walking away, for letting distance grow between him and the truth. He finally looked up and said quietly, I just hope she grows up loved. That's all that matters. And that, in the end, was the truth that bound them all. Love mattered more than blood. Both stories, so different, yet so painfully similar, reveal how easily love can turn into suspicion, and how suspicion can destroy what love built. Mr. Shepherd pawned a ring out of fear. Mr. Donaldson ran from responsibility out of doubt. Mr. Murray held on to a child out of love. And all three men learned the same lesson, that truth is not a weapon, it's a mirror. In that mirror, they each saw who they really were. Not as lovers or accusers, but as human beings, flawed and fragile. Miss Russell saw that strength isn't in shouting your innocence. It's in standing firm while the world questions